Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. And yes, this is another lesson in insanity. Now, today I wanted to talk about an experience that I had several years ago with diversity, equity, and inclusion. So a while back, I was let's just say, department manager in a very large corporation. I had a very close friend of mine who was also a department manager in this same business. I was forced to make a diversity, equity, and inclusion hire. This person was a minority, was not qualified for the role that I was hiring for. There were many coaching practices, many coaching items that I would not have to do with a non-diversity, equity, and inclusion hire that I had to do for this individual. Basic things as well. Basic report writing. How to write a memorandum, how to properly compose a email that you would want to send to both your peers and other people leaders. So at one point, this diversity, equity, and inclusion hire was transferred via essentially the entire department to, again, this very close friend that I still have today. And he managed this diversity, equity, and inclusion hire. Well, this individual, this diversity, equity, and inclusion hire that I was forced to hire that was now working in this other person's department, I did the best I could. Did some things that were, let's just say, beyond the scope of normal working errors. You could commit an error in the scope of your duties, and you can be coached and trained, and that could be corrected. This specific issue revolved around integrity that this diversity, equity, and inclusion hire committed while working. My friend, who also managed this person, wanted to terminate this employee. And this went all the way to the vice president of the department. The reason it went all the way to the vice president was because this was a diversity, equity, and inclusion hire, and this person happened to have a skin color unlike anyone else in the department. So at the end of the day, the vice president declared that we would be unable to terminate this person based on skin color, even though it was an integrity-related issue that we probably needed to move on in terms of separation. So this diversity, equity, and inclusion person was not fired. About a year later, I then went back to this same department and ended up having to manage this same diversity, equity, and inclusion hire. And again, I had the same issue in terms of an integrity-related occurrence or issue with this employee. And before I made it an official issue, it was I was informed that we would not be able to terminate this employee. Two, not once, but twice, this was an integrity-related offense that this employee committed. Now, I'm not going to talk about what it was or what happened, but please be assured it did occur, and it was integrity-related. It was being untruthful and doing something to enhance his business that in due course would have damaged the business. If this person was a non-diversity, equity, and inclusion hire, he would have absolutely been terminated right away. Is that racism? I would say so. Now, fast forward another year or two, COVID occurred. The entire department or multiple departments were then purged, laid off. Out of dozens upon dozens upon dozens of employees that were fired or laid off, only 2 people remained within the business. And yes, you guessed it. One of those 2 people was that same underperforming, integrity-related problems that remained with the business because he was a diversity and equity and inclusion hire. Everyone else was let go with the exception of 2 DEI employees. The one we had the problem with, and another one probably not so much. He was fine. But those are the only 2 individuals that remained in these fairly expansive business units and ended up transferring or remaining with the business simply because they were a different color. Even though borderline incompetent and some serious integrity-related issues, it didn't matter. Those 2 were retained, which decreased the quality of the workforce overall. Many very high-performing individuals were let go simply because they were not diversity, equity, and inclusion hires. Another lesson in insanity. Have a good day.